Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another interview. And today we have a very special guest, Mr. Jacques Masson. Jacques, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and a delight to be here. I'm
Yes,
honored by the invitation.
I am very honored and blessed to have you. Like we were just talking when we were backstage, and I was saying that you could have probably done this interview with the channel with hundreds of thousands of subscribers because insiders in the industry don't do these interviews very often. So blessed and honored to have you. So tell the people, the viewers, and myself, tell us a little bit about yourself and your history.
Well, we're a family business, and I am very fortunate to be the third generation involved in the business. My great uncle started in the fragrance business because he used to study at La Sorbonne in France. And when you lived in North America and had to go to France in the old days, you took the boat across. There were no planes in the 30s and in the 40s. And on one of those crossings, he met a young gentleman with whom he befriended, and his name was Robert Ricci from the Nina Ricci family. So my great uncle started to sell fragrance just for the fun of it. Yes, that's one of the bottles, but we had Cœur Joie. Cœur Joie was in a Lalique bottle and signed by the Lalique family underneath. And they were selling the the half ounce extract was selling for $25 in those days.
It's a lot of money
So
back then.
yes, way below. And as things evolved, my father joined him, and I joined the family business in '74. As we were skincare and fragrance distributor, we approached a French skincare company called Payot to become their Canadian distributor. And when I got into their office in Paris, I noticed that they had Gucci fragrance there. So I said, "Oh, Gucci, how nice." So we began to talk Gucci and walked out with the contract, the Canadian contract for Payot and Gucci fragrance. But Gucci was distributed by a company called Scannon. Now, Scannon Canada was an affiliate of Menon, but Menon, the deodorant and the men's product. Now, Menon US also owned a fragrance called Canon. So basically, we became the Canadian distributor for Canon indirectly. And we began to sell and to sell the product. That's the one you have there in your hand, Ramsey. And now the particularity of Canon is that the fragrance was created in the 60s as a men's leathery tobacco extract fragrance, a heavier scent than what we find today, not too flowery. It also had some ingredients that were from Sweden, and the O slash mean E. So it was Canon. That's how the Swedes would have pronounced the name. And it meant, translated into pure English, the cannon of a gun or the cannon of a tank. That's what it
Uh,
meant as a
I did not
fragrance.
know that.
But they did insist on also having a wood cap to give it that Scandinavian look.
That's
Yes,
right. You can see the real wood.
exactly. And so as we were selling Canon in Canada, the US affiliate of Scannon was then sold to the Merlins. The Merlins were a German family company that also were the family behind the old fragrance 4711, the
Okay.
original Coliche Wasser from Germany. And with time, the Merlins, there was a feud in the family, the fifth or sixth generation. So they split the company apart. Gucci was sold to a different group. Payot was sold to a different group, and we purchased to secure our market the rights to the name of Canon and took the distribution from New Jersey then and brought it into Canada, and we started to manufacture Canon. And without changing the formula, without changing the ingredients nor the fragrance, because we had the recipe that we were buying the what is called the essential oil
Hmm.
from Firmenich in those days, and the wood cap was made by a small manufacturer who made also broomsticks. So since it was round, she could make the cap at the same time. And there was a manufacturer in Maine who used to make the wood caps, and we manufactured the fragrance for something like 20 some odd years. We were the owner of the trademark, the owner of the fragrance. Never changed the formula. We always stuck to the original formula. We had the pleasure of creating a second fragrance within Canon, which we call Canon Sport, which
Oh,
we wanted to have as a fragrance to catch a younger generation. And as we are, or as we were a smaller company, we did not have the capital to invest like the big guys of the world to create the advertising campaign and to create the demand, artificially create the demand by pushing advertising and sampling and everything everywhere. So our market slowly went down. And as I said, every time I saw a hearse going by, I saw a customer laying in the hearse because the clientele was getting older. So came time to sell, to look for a prospective buyer to take over Canon and maybe allow it to survive or to continue and prosper. I found a company based in Florida called Great American Beauty, who then repurchased from us the name, the trademark, the formula, and everything, and the line was pushed back to Florida. Sadly for me, today I see that Canon is no longer manufactured in the States. When I find some, I see that it's made in Hongland. What I call Hongland is in China, and I regret that. But
yeah.
as I'm not the owner, I said, well, it's not ours to do.
But you're a
But
fragrance lover, so it's
yes.
still not good to see, right? Can you show
Mm-hmm.
us that X-ray bottle again, or
Factice.
the Factice? Yes.
But it's real juice inside. Since we were manufacturing, I had the pleasure of emptying the colored water and put real cologne inside. So if I
Wow,
open up the cap, it does smell Canon.
unbelievable.
Yes.
Um, so you mentioned you were very proud of never doing a reformulation. If you
Hmm.
had decided to do a reformulation, is that something you would have had to been cleared through the brand? Do you, as a distributor, do you have the power to do a reformulation, or what would that look like?
Well, in the case of Canon, as we owned it, we could do whatever we wanted with it. But as a distributor, where we have had like Gucci or other fragrance, no, you're not allowed to alter, change, or modify the product. Normally, you have to follow what the mother company wants and what the mother company is looking to achieve. Where the distributor has a certain flexibilities when it comes to promotion, to do events, or also where we want to sell. You know, um, you sell in drugstores, perfumeries, department stores, but not your friendly Texaco, for example.
Yes, that's right. I actually got some. I got some questions from the audience because
Hmm.
I was given a couple of days, and one of the questions was asking about the department store's continued decline. Once obviously in the old days, you always wanted to sell to the department store.
Yeah.
Where does the distributor turn to now that the department stores are turning into dinosaurs?
Well, department stores are turning to dinosaurs. Drugstore chain are turning to be extremely difficult to deal with because they're bigger. And the buyer puts basically a gun to your head and says, "Okay, these are my terms, and you take or you leave. And by the way, your shirt, I don't like the color. Go get me another one for you." You know, so
Yeah.
that's the way it works. The big chains are getting bigger. The perfumeries, well, you might say there's the Sephora, but Sephora is owned by LVMH.
Yes.
LVMH also owns Guerlain and owns Dior. So of course, when they go in, it's these brands that are put in front. The other marginal brands are put in the back, and your conditions or the terms of your business is very difficult for an independent to deal with them because they're hogs. They make life miserable for the small independent.
Sure.
So so as a store, the department stores are, I wouldn't say fading away, but having their market share taken away by the Sephora's of the world or the drugstore chains. There's also the internet that is a viable options, but in the internet, it's hard to go and test a fragrance. You can't smell through the screen. So there's direct sale. That's also another option. But this is why we decided to gradually walk away from fragrance totally as a distributor because can't compete with the L'Oreals or the Lauders of the world, which, if you look at market share, five companies basically control about 80% of the fragrance world. And also, consumers, rare are the ones that are loyal to one fragrance or one juice, as we may say in the old um, trade talk. People like to see what's new, what's the novelties, and there are trends also. So you have to always reinvest and recreate yourself.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for sharing that. That was very interesting. So how have you seen during you've been in the fragrance industry and cosmetics industry now for decades. How have you seen people's attitudes towards perfumery change in terms of taste or affordability or how they view perfume, maybe like within a societal aspect?
Well, a fragrance is part of your personality. A fragrance is something that you have to almost guess that it's there. It's not something that the ladies walked and 10 minutes after you still smell the fragrance. It's something that you have to go and discover discreetly. A, a perfume is like the first kiss you had on your cheek. You have to go, when you smell it. It has to bring you a souvenir. It has to bring you back a nice, soft emotion. If not, it's repellent. You don't want it. So it's really a personal taste. Like you like sweet or you don't. You like something that's sour or you don't. So fragrance falls into that same category, but there are trends. There are fashion. In the 30s and the 40s, they were heavier scent that they use musk, and because people were using fur coats, and fur also is heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Today we see more flowery, more light fragrance, and even for men, men are going. They're not as chauvinist as they used to be, and so the trend of the market is to have a softer, lighter fragrance, something that does not overwhelm also your environment or your co-workers or the people that commute with you in the bus or on the train.
Yes. And, part of the whole reason that I decided to start this channel is because, like you said, it's hard to find honest information out there about some of this stuff. And then I got to discovering some of these, and I realized just how amazing some of the old stuff was. Everyone's chasing their tail trying to get the newest and greatest thing, but you can go back to
Mm.
the 60s with this or Abbey Rouge, or there's so many
Yeah,
amazing fragrances.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but the distributor aspect is really interesting because over the months, I only started my channel at the end of last year, but I did some interesting comparison videos like
Bijan.
Bijan Man,
Yes.
right? But one of them is the new 5-star fragrance, and one of them is Bijan Fragrances Inc., and they actually smell completely different. Same bottle,
Because
same
yeah.
name. What do you make of
Well,
distributors
five
keeping
star.
everything?
Yeah, 5 Star is the newer owner of Bijan. They purchased from Bijan the fragrance rights, and of course, when you're a newer owner, you're looking to increase your profitability, and sometimes you alter the recipe, you alter what goes inside. And having dealt also with 5 Star in the past, I know that not that they're not ethical, but they also have to look at what will the market want and what are the trends. So sometimes by putting a different color cap or different color bottle, but the same shape, you save on the mold cost, which is very expensive, or the designer
Mhm.
of the mold cost, and you just create a number two, number three, number four fragrance out of the same kind of packaging.
Is that the most expensive aspect, the mold, normally?
Yeah,
More
and
expensive than the juice?
oh yeah, oh yeah. You know, we won't talk about the industrial cost of what goes inside because you'd pull your hair out. But
Right.
what is it? You have to look at it as being an artistic creation, because the person who designs the mold, either it's a Dijon or one of the great European designers, you'll be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to have that design. And then you have to have a mold that's made for the deluxe sample, the 5 or 15 ml. Then you need the 30 ml, or sorry, I'll go in ounce. You have half ounce, 1 ounce, 2 ounce, 3 ounce bottles, and each time is a new mold that you need, and a mold will cost $50,000 to $60,000 to make. Then there's the production of the glass. So if you want a good cost for the glass, you go to Asia, but Asia will ask for 100,000 bottles of each size, and they're not filled yet. Then you need to find a cap. So all of that increase the cost of raw material or the industrial cost to produce, even though there's nothing inside.
Yes.
But the fragrance that goes inside the juice by itself, it's all alcohol diluted with 2-3% of fragrance juice inside. A good fragrance could cost maybe a $2,000-3,000 a kilo to buy the oil, and with 1 kilo of oil, you can make up to 100 gallon of juice.
What do you make on some of the big oil houses? You mentioned Fermentation. There's also IFF and
IFF and all those things.
Givaudan and Robertet and
Mhm.
on and on and on, right? It seems like, lately there is now IFRA that's come into play. That's something that I guess you didn't have to deal with in the 80s, but
Mhm.
IFRA says we're going to regulate oak moss and we're going to ban it and we're going to only put it at 0.1% in the formula. But you can go buy a Robertet synthetic ingredient that will replace oak moss, or they're going to ban Lirol or Liliol. Does it seem like the big oil houses are almost forcing people to use more and more and more of their ingredients instead of the old naturals?
Well, the natural is getting rare and hard to get, and also creates a big impact on the environment, because in the case of Canada, they use have castor oil. It means it's oil that's from beavers, and
Castorium.
yeah. So, and some of the fragrance in the old days, they would take oil from sperm from whales. So you can't have that anymore because there's decline of the animal and the protection of animals that's also involved. So they turn to artificial fragrance houses or products that are man-made to be included into the fragrance without altering too much the fragrance. Chanel prides itself on still picking up the rose morning before dawn at that time, but imagine how labor intense it is, and it's extremely costly. So we can't sell a bottle. Well, there are some houses that sell perfume at 3 ounce will cost you, a couple $100. And there's marketing that's involved in that price point, but there's also the cost of producing and the labor that's involved there also in there. So artificial components into the fragrance, I think, is also part of the culture that mankind evolves, and also has to go with the flow of things in the world.
Do you have any favorite brands or people that you worked with in the past? I saw the late great genius Hubert Givenchy's name pop up on your website a couple times.
Well, I was fortunate, and like I said, I was born and raised in a family that was involved in fragrance. So my father met Hubert de Givenchy when Monsieur de Givenchy was not even a world-known designer, and so uh, the company's got over 60 years of history in fragrance, and we've seen so many companies come and go, and or new birth of new fragrance that are basically been hashed down and trying to re-evolve. But I like personally a fragrance that is discreet but yet fits your mood of the day, fits how you want to dress, how you want to be perceived, because it's basically your personality that you allow to glow in your surrounding.
Yes. This is actually one of my favorite of all time. Um,
Oh, it's
Givenchy
Givenchy.
Gentleman.
Yeah,
This is actually
gentlemen,
a
the
vintage
Givenchy. Yes, yes, yes. I recognize. Yes.
I'm a huge fan. So did you have any favorite fragrances, or did you have any signature scents over your life? I think
You
you're
know,
set for life on that one.
well, actually, when I was a young teen, my father was the Canadian distributor for English leather,
Ah,
and English leather also had a wood cap.
yes, that's right.
And I was paid by my father 25 cents an hour to glue the plastic cap inside the wood cap. But to get my 25 cents an hour, I had to produce 144 units per hour. But I grew and I loved that fragrance, the old English leather. And then they created other fragrance along with it, the Windrift and the Timberline and all of that. But that's a fragrance that's almost disappeared from the market also. So
Yes.
when we were given the opportunity to purchase Canon, it was kind of reminiscence of those days at the same time. Um, so I like those kind of fragrances, and yet on the other side, I like citrusy, like Fahrenheit, for example. I love Fahrenheit. Um, and sometimes I like on Friday when I wear jeans, I like Ralph Lauren Polo.
The
But
green
the
78.
green, yeah,
Yeah,
just the green, yes.
agreed.
So it depends on what I feel like, because uh, I have about 30 different men's fragrance in my pharmacy. So I look at it in the morning. So what am I going to look at? Who do I meet today? Where do I go today? And then I pick and choose.
English leather was actually originally a Russian leather fragrance, correct?
Actually, Mr. Mayer, like the company was manufactured by a company called MEM, MEM. It's Mayer and Mayer. And Mr. Mayer was a Australian immigrant who came to Canada, yes, with a recipe of soap of Russian descent. And from that soap scent created the fragrance English leather. And that's where the name English leather was a saddle that you had on the picture of the bottle.
The story that I heard is that whenever they immigrated overseas to United States, Canada, they didn't want to call it Russian leather because the war was going on, right? And
Exactly, exactly.
the Russians were the enemies at the time, and they didn't want to call it Russian leather, so they picked English leather just because they were our allies.
Exactly. But you still had the saddle of a horse on the image because it was soap used to soften and to wash the saddle that they use on horses.
Well, I have a vintage bottle, and it didn't cost me a lot of money to buy. I can tell you that, and it's a fantastic fragrance. But that just goes to show that some of the, like you mentioned earlier, fragrances for hundreds, three, four. There are now fragrances you can buy for thousands, even.
Yeah,
Some of that is just, marketing and all that stuff. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get a fantastic fragrance from the past.
exactly, exactly.
Um, so would you say the perfume community in Canada is larger or smaller than the US? Because I've noticed that sometimes if I'm trying to hunt down a vintage bottle, there's a lot of old vintage bottles laying around Canada for some reason. Why is that?
I don't know. The market is slightly different. Like in Canada, so we have three markets. You have the French zone, which is more influenced by France. You have the central Canada, Ontario, which is more influenced by what goes on in Ontario and in England up to a point. And then you have the West Coast, which is more influenced by Asia. So, but why there's more vintage? Maybe because uh, there were a lot of small boutiques in the old days that disappeared also. So that's where those bottles lied.
Maybe because of Anuj. Thank you for setting this up, by the way,
Yes.
Anuj. Much obliged. I wish you could have been here, my friend.
And Anush is a really good person to contact if you're looking for something that's different, disappeared, or rare. He would have a source.
Yes, he has a source. There's no doubt about it. If you see my fragrances behind me, he's probably responsible for half of them. So
I should show you one day my museum of fragrance that I have, where we have vintage bottles and collectible bottles. I even have a bottle that is Greco-Roman that I bought at the Musée du Louvre in Paris,
that would
where
be
it's
amazing.
a perfume bottle that came from the Greco-Romans.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, we would love. I would absolutely love it. So, speaking of Anuj, and not to put words in his mouth, but he did mention that through the grapevine, you have some amazing stories on how you took over the license from Scannon. Here, I actually have a Gucci Scannon bottle. Let's see if I can hunt it down. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, here we go. So this is a Scannon bottle.
Yeah, that's a Gucci Nobile.
Correct.
That's the men's fragrance, very spicy, and I still have a bottle of the Nobile. It's a nice fragrance. The problem that I have sometimes is there's gunk that forms on the spray.
Yes.
But it's a nice fragrance, very unique.
Yes, fantastic. Do you get a tobacco note in this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a beautiful fougere. You know, bottles of this are going for $800 on eBay. Sorry, I've got a cold in case you can't notice. I'm fighting through it. So what's your opinion on the current state of the fragrance industry? Because obviously now, you know, in the old days, like for example, it took Chanel 26 years to release a fragrance from Pour Monsieur, which was Chanel for Men, to Antaeus. Now these companies are pumping out fragrances every year, flankers, year after year. Where does this all go? Does this just continue with 20,000 releases a year and no one can keep up? Or
It's like it's a fashion commodity, and the market used to be very classic loyal. Now it's changed to what's new, what's a novelty, and they follow the trend. So it's a question of trying to find your own personal agenda and see what you want and stick to that. But the younger generation is not as fragrance oriented. I would say they try to be fragrance less and or no fragrance at all. And even there's some places that I know of that it is forbidden to wear fragrance when you work in that certain environment because people are allergic or creates reaction. And same thing with essential oils. You know, essential oils do have positive, but a lot of people are allergic to essential oils. So in today's world, it's like peanut butter. You know, you go to restaurants and they avoid using peanut butter because a lot of people are allergic to the peanut.
I don't think I would survive working in that environment. I'd have to quit.
Mm.
Are there any accords or any notes that you don't like in perfumery?
Well, patchouli I find very strong personally, but it reminds me of my younger days when I was a teen. So it has that positive memory, but I found that strong. But in regards to accord, I try to enjoy the moment and to gas to get that souvenir impregnated into my mind and to go with what it brings as a positive note. It's got to be always looked as being positive. That special moment, that first kiss you had on the cheek there, the first woman you went and you look, you went, and your heart goes like this. Fragrance has to be like that too.
Yes.
It's got to remind you that romantic essence.
The obviously the old bottles, like we were talking about, Gucci Nobile, these you can't find anymore, but you can still go to Walmart and you can get a bottle of Polo Green. You mentioned Polo Green. Do you have a vintage bottle or do you have a modern bottle? Do you detect any difference in the formula over the years?
Well, the bottle that I have is maybe 15 years old, so it's vintage, and I haven't smelled the newer ones that you find in department stores.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I think, one of the issues nowadays is you have to get out a magnifying glass and look and see if it says Warner or Cosmere or whatever
But
the new.
Warner Brothers were the original owner of Ralph Lauren license.
Yes, that's right. This is a Warner
And
bottle.
yeah, so that's the original. That dates back from I would say, the late 70s.
Yeah, this bottle's older than I am.
Yeah. And but L'Oreal in general are a good protector of the origins and of the design because they own so many brands also. Um, Even though they sold some, but they're also Armani is owned by them,
Yeah,
and
YSL.
yeah. But the green from Ralph Lauren, I think, was in my book the best one. The red, the blue after the yellow. I
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. I
Yeah.
don't know in regards of sales how much it represents, but I think it just dilute the um, the total volume of the name of Ralph Lauren by doing that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, I think when a company like Ralph Lauren deals with L'Oreal, I think they completely give up I don't even think they make any decisions on the fragrances anymore. I
No,
think
I don't think
L'Oreal
so.
takes it and runs with it, eh?
They get their license fee and they're happy with that.
That's it. They can worry about other things, more important things than the fragrance, huh?
Exactly.
So what ultimately made you take the obviously it was probably a tough task to decide to get out of the fragrance game and into skincare. What made you make that move?
Well, skincare, you build a loyalty, and in general, the people who use skincare are very, very loyal to the brand and their regimen. When it comes to fragrances, when I saw all of the new fragrance coming out not even every season, almost bi-weekly, there would be a new fragrance coming out. Uh, Retailers don't want to stock on a fragrance, so you always have to um, absorb the financial risk. And as a distributor, you have to buy from the mother company to bring it to your warehouse. Then you sell across to different retailers. But retailers always will ship back to you what is not sold.
So it
So
was on consignment.
yeah, it's not consignment, but almost.
Almost. Okay.
Yeah. So you're stuck. And instead of being stuck, well, as a company, we decided to go with the loyalty and where to sell what we knew that would be continuity, and that's why we went to skincare.
Turned out to be a good move, it sounds like.
Can't complain. We're very
Is
happy.
there is there real castoreum in these old bottles that you distributed, or are you talking even older bottles?
Can you say that again?
Was there, you mentioned real castoreum in the old
Yes.
bottles of Canon. Is there real
Not
castoreum?
no, not
Not
in
in
these
this
ones.
one.
No, it's when I studied the formula from Scannon that I found that there was castoreum inside, but the recipe was changed when Menon got involved, and we kept the Menon. We tried to change the concentration because surprisingly, the aftershave had a higher concentration than the cologne originally, and
That's surprising.
yeah, that's not normal. One had a 3% concentration, the other one had a 2.5. Normally, it should have been reversed. So we just brought it back to the original concentration. But as when we were buying the essential oils, uh, people were happy with the scent, the fragrance, and I even had a customer who lived in Houston, and he would send us his empty bottles to refill. So, so that, and the gentleman just loved the juice. So we call it juice, which is basically the slang for the fragrance. But so I know that we had dedicated and loyal customers to Canon, and for them that was basically uh, the essence of their life almost to use that fragrance every day to splash it onto their face every day. But Canon also had an extensive skincare line attached to it. They had shampoo, talcum, aftershave balm. They had shaving cream, shaving foam. Um, they had a whole series of accessories that stopped before we got involved with it.
You didn't distribute those.
Well, Menon had stopped selling those, and the men's skincare market, even today, 30 years after, is still very, very small compared to the women skincare market.
Yes.
So even though men's tastes have evolved and we're not as chauvinist as it used to be, not too many men go for facials, not too many men go to spas or beauty institute to have treatments.
Not too many men wear perfume every day either, as much.
Yes.
Although
I cannot get dressed without putting a fragrance, whatever it is.
I'm with you. I'm the same. But I think maybe we're a rarity nowadays. We're starting to be the dinosaurs.
Yeah, unfortunately, more gray hair, more dinosaurs. Yes.
Oh, that's it. Well, I would love to take you up on your offer one day to see your museum, but we've killed 35 minutes of your time. So, any last words? I appreciate you joining on the channel. I'm sure our subscribers will love listening to this.
Well, it's been a pleasure for me, and I want to thank Anush for putting us in contact with each other. And I look at this as a great honor for me to be interviewed about our Canon fragrance. And I'll just show that bottle again.
Yes.
My giant black piece.
It's amazing. Look at the color of that juice.
Huh?
The color of that juice is unbelievable.
It's darker. It's darker.
Yes.
Yeah. But from your side, it's darker. But if you look back, you see through. Yes. Because with age, it does. It gets darker and it concentrates more because water evaporates from it. So this bottle was filled to the top, but it's never been opened in the last 10 years. But slowly, I see it going down slowly. Even though I did remove the cap and I put a cellophane on top, but it still evaporates.
It doesn't matter. That's not you splashing it, taking that bottle and splashing it on every day, eh?
No. But I have. Don't worry. Before I sold the brand to GAB, I kept about a dozen bottles for myself. So I still have a few remaining bottles for myself.
You're stocked. Well, I'm a big fan. It's my scent of the day. I think it's an amazing fragrance for what it is. If you can find the old Masson limited bottles, that's the one that I can vouch for. I haven't smelled the new stuff, but I hear that it's not as good as the old stuff. So
I don't want to speak against the people who purchased it, but I wouldn't want it to be manufactured in China. Let's put it this way.
Agreed. Likewise. I know, just from a fragrance lover standpoint, right?
Exactly.
So, well, it's been a pleasure for me. So
Thank you, Ramsey. I enjoyed, I appreciate, and it's been fun for me too. And,
likewise.
Whenever you have a question, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you for joining us. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Bye now. Bye-bye.